Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're diving into something that looks pretty simple on the surface,
Right.
just two people talking about their daily routines.
Yeah. Seems straightforward enough.
But we're not really here to, compare breakfast preferences or anything.
No, definitely not about who likes eggs more than toast.
Exactly. Our mission, it's more like trying to crack the code. We want to find that universal linguistic recipe.
It's a structure.
Yeah, the essential structure, the words, the patterns, so that you, listening, can actually talk about your own life, even if it's complex, in a really clear, quick way.
Exactly. We're hunting for the blueprint, the framework.
Okay.
Because even though their days are different, different meals, hobbies, work times, the way they talk about it, that conversational structure, it's basically identical.
Okay.
And we can boil it down, really, to two things. A time marker. When something happens
At
like
that 7 a.m.
precisely. Yeah. And then an action placeholder. That's the verb, the activity itself. And once you see where that action placeholder goes, you can just slot in whatever verb fits your life.
Okay, I get it. Let's see that in action then. Starting right at the beginning, the morning.
Let's do it.
So we have our two routines, and time markers, they're different right away. One person wakes up at 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
The other, maybe a bit more chilled, wakes up at 8 a.m.
Yeah, the time varies. But that first action placeholder, the waking up slot, that's fixed.
Right.
And then their very first actions show this verb substitution principle perfectly. One uses the action brushing teeth.
Okay.
The other uses drinking a glass of water. The structure holds, but the specific action. Totally interchangeable.
Ah, okay. But then comes coffee.
Yes, the universal constant.
It seems like it. Both make coffee, and one actually says how important it is. It feels like a real anchor for that morning block, regardless of the exact time.
Coffee prep. But structural, apparently,
Mm.
not just a habit.
Huh. It seems so. And breakfast follows that same pattern, right? Comparing the two.
Exactly. One person goes for the simple action placeholder. Eat simple bread and butter. Very basic.
Mm-hmm.
While the other makes a point of having a good breakfast, eggs, and toast. So the structure is, I eat this breakfast action at this time marker.
But the detail, the actual food, is totally up to them.
Nobly variable.
Okay, so morning structure. Time marker plus action placeholder for waking up, then the essential coffee placeholder, and then a substitutable placeholder for breakfast. Got it.
Okay, so following the source material, the pivot point, from that personal morning stuff to the workday. It's marked by a specific transition action placeholder.
Which is?
Check an email.
Yeah.
We're checking the phone. It's called out as the universal daily habit that sort of bridges those two parts of the day.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's the switch. And then the work schedules themselves, they show the main work structure really clearly.
Yeah, slightly different time markers, again, 9 a.m. start versus 9:30. And they both mention working from home is easy. They just sit at their desk, which kind of streamlines the structure, actually. You don't need that I commute action placeholder.
Good point. It simplifies things.
And what's interesting is how they build social stuff into the work action placeholder. Like, one mentions a 10 a.m. meeting,
Mm-hmm.
but they stress its value isn't just projects, it's connecting with friendly colleagues, maybe chatting about hobbies, setting up the week.
Ah, so the structure gets layered. You have the main work action, but inside that you have smaller actions like meeting or, I guess, managing projects.
Exactly. And both of them share that feeling of being busy, right? That long to-do list.
Oh yeah, the universal stress.
Which brings up a kind of interesting point from the source. If the feeling is constant, the stress of the list, why isn't I feel stressed the main action placeholder?
Huh. Good question.
Well, the source suggests the conversation focuses on actions, like the practical tip they mention. Writing the list every morning to help remember everything.
Right.
It prioritizes what you do about the routine, not just how you feel.
Okay, that's a really key difference. It's about observable actions, things you repeat. Which leads us nicely to the next fixed time marker, 12 p.m. lunchtime. That break seems non-negotiable.
Fixed point. But again, the action placeholder for eating lunch shows that substitution principle again.
How so?
One person grabs something fast, like a sandwich, quick and easy.
Mm-hmm.
The other goes for a light and fresh salad, calling it a great choice. The core structure, I eat lunch at 12:00, stays the same. The food itself, personal choice.
Right. And then wrapping up the workday, finishing times, one at 5:00, the other 5:30.
Yep. That action placeholder finish work cues the end of the workday block, and sets us up for the evening, the decompression time.
Okay, this is where the structure really shows its flexibility, I think. Because the post-work routine, it's all about unwinding, but the examples are like totally opposite.
Yeah, the action placeholder is exercise, but how they fill that slot is completely different.
Right.
And look how smoothly the structure handles it. One person puts in a solid hour at the gym. That's a, let's say, structured action placeholder. And they mentioned feeling good afterwards.
Okay, gym for an hour. What's the other one?
Much more relaxed. A 30-minute walk in the park. That's the relaxed AP. And they specifically link it to listening to music or a podcast.
Ah, interesting.
But the basic formula, I do this action for this duration, works for both the intense gym session and the gentle walk. That's the elegance of it.
Yeah, okay. Then dinner, the cook action placeholder. This shows really different attitudes.
Totally different relationships with cooking. You've got the simple cook, keeps it super basic pasta, maybe chicken and veg, and they even say, I am not a good cook.
Huh. Which is a useful conversational bit in itself,
Yeah.
right? Explains the simple meals.
Exactly. It gives context to why that action placeholder is filled so simply. Then the other person uses cook as like passion AP. They love it, try new things, talk about a delicious fish dish.
So the dinner slot needs filling, but how you fill it with what verb and detail says a lot about you.
Precisely. Defines your relationship to the activity.
Okay. And then winding down for the night, the main action placeholder seems to be relaxation.
Yeah, which mostly means watching TV, movies, or series.
Mm-hmm.
One person specifically says, comedy shows are perfect after a long day.
Highlighting the function of the activity. It's not just watching TV, it's relaxing with comedy.
Exactly. And even that very last action placeholder, before bed the time marker is fixed again. 10 p.m. for both, even that varies.
How so?
One chooses read a book,
Yeah.
and they connect it to helping them sleep. So the action has a stated purpose.
Okay.
The other just says they're very tired, so their final action is simply go to bed.
Right. But hitting that 10 p.m. time marker seems key for both.
Absolutely. It reinforces that getting good sleep is maybe the ultimate foundation for a good routine, no matter how you choose to wind down right before it.
All right, so we've sort of mapped out the structure across the day. Now let's make this really practical. Turn it into that plug-and-play manual for everyone listening. We promised a recipe.
This is it. This is where we lay out the core phrases, the linguistic tools you can use immediately,
Right.
and the engine driving all of this conversation. It's the simple present tense. That's the language of routine, right? For things you do regularly, habitually. We've seen the framework. Now let's isolate the specific formulas.
So what are the absolute must-have structures, the ones to memorize?
They kind of fall into four main buckets. First, time and meal formula. Super simple. I wake up at time marker.
Okay,
Or I eat breakfast, lunch, dinner at time marker.
got it. Time and meals, what's next?
Second, the work-study formula. I start work at time marker, and I finish work at time marker. And crucially, if you don't work, you just swap work for school or study. I go to school at 8:00. I study until 5:00. The listener gets it instantly.
So the main action placeholder for that block of time just gets swapped out depending on your situation, but the time markers still frame it. What about like personal time activities?
That's the third one, the activity formula. This focuses on those action verbs, often linked to movement or doing something. I go to the gym, I walk, I cook dinner.
Okay.
And fourth, the relaxation formula. I watch TV, I read a book, I listen to music. These are probably your most flexible action placeholders.
This idea of adaptability, just swapping the verb, seems really important. Like if you hate cooking,
You don't break the flow, you just swap the placeholder. The source gives the perfect example. Instead of I cook dinner, you can just as easily say, I order food.
or I eat at a restaurant.
Exactly. The listener understands it's the dinner activity slot, but you've accurately described your reality. Mastering these simple present tense structures, these formulas, it really gives you the confidence to talk about your whole day, your whole life.
Yeah, it's like a recipe for conversation about your routine. Okay, so the structure works for the big blocks, morning work, evening. How does it handle the maybe less exciting stuff, like chores?
Same structure applies,
Yeah.
but we often add another layer. The frequency marker.
Frequency marker.
Yeah, how often you do it. The source makes a distinction between daily chores, small things like doing the dishes, cleaning the kitchen. One person says it's a small thing, but I do it every day.
Okay, so every day is the frequency marker.
Exactly. And then there were less frequent chores. Taking out the trash, maybe only Mondays and Thursdays.
Right.
Or laundry, which is called a big job, specifically gets the frequency marker for the weekend.
Mm.
but the sentence is still simple. I take out the trash on Mondays. I do laundry on the weekend.
Gotcha. Structure plus frequency. What about hobbies? Things you actually enjoy?
Same idea. You use the activity action placeholder, but you add how often or when. Like I play the guitar for 20 minutes every day,
Okay.
or I draw my sketchbook every evening. It adds precision.
So you wouldn't just say, I listen to podcasts. You might add context.
Right. I listen to podcasts on the bus or while I walk. It shows how that hobby, that activity AP, fits into another time slot or alongside another action.
Makes sense. Okay, final piece. The weekend. How does the structure handle that big shift away from the weekday grind?
It handles it perfectly just by changing the content of the placeholders. First, the time marker shifts dramatically. Waking up late, 9 Duna 00 Denvar 00 maybe, and the key phrase, no alarm.
The best part.
Absolutely. And the action placeholders themselves signal leisure. They change completely.
So instead of just eat breakfast, it becomes...
Make a special breakfast like pancakes. Instead of go to work, the action placeholder might be meet friends or go to the market or visit family.
Different activities fill those time slots.
Exactly. And Sunday often has its own specific structure focused on preparation for the week ahead. Action placeholders like resting, reading, cleaning, and importantly, preparing food for the busy week ahead.
Which the source called smart.
It is smart. Structurally, it's the final set of actions designed to set up the next week's routine. It loops back. Hashtag tag outro.
Okay, so if we sort of pull back and look at everything we've unpacked, what we really have is like a cheat sheet for talking about your routine. It's this mix of time markers and action placeholders.
That's the core of it.
Yeah.
Describing your routine effectively really just boils down to combining two simple things. Time words, morning, afternoon, evening, night. Those kinds of markers.
Mm-hmm.
And those crucial, simple, present tense action words, the verbs. Wake up, eat, work, walk, cook, watch, read, sleep.
The basics.
And for practice, the tips mentioned were like just talking to yourself using these structures.
Yeah, or writing down your routine. Apparently, writing it helps you remember the words, those action placeholders.
Makes sense.
So here's a final thought, building on that adaptability idea. We've seen how the whole structure of your day is basically defined by the action placeholders you slot in at certain times, swapping cook for order food or gym for walk.
Right.
So consider this. If the simple present tense is the language of routine, which single action placeholder, just one verb, do you think defines your day the most?
Huh. Interesting question. And if you were to change just that one verb, how fundamentally might the whole structure, the whole outcome of your day actually change, even if all the time markers stayed exactly the same?
Wow, okay. Definitely something to think about as you maybe start drafting your own daily conversation recipe using these ideas.
Exactly.
Great stuff. We'll catch you next time for the next deep dive.